Hello, I'm Father Joe Roesch of the Marian Fathers of the Immaculate Conception. Thank you for joining us as we continue with our year-long journey reading the diary of St. Maria Faustina Kowalska from beginning to end. Today we take up from where we left off, beginning with diary entry number 302. O eternal love, I want all the souls you have created to come to know you. I would like to be a priest, for then I would speak without cease about your mercy to sinful souls drowned in despair. I would like to be a missionary and carry out the light of faith to savage nations in order to make you known to souls and to be completely consumed for them and to die a martyr's death, just as you died for them and for me. O Jesus, I know only too well that I can be a priest, a missionary, a preacher, and that I can die a martyr's death by completely emptying myself and denying myself for love of you, O Jesus, and of immortal souls. Great love can change small things into great ones, and it is only love which lends value to our actions. And the purer our love becomes, the less there will be within us for the flames of suffering to feed upon. And the suffering will cease to be a suffering for us. It will become a delight. By the grace of God, I have received such a disposition of heart that I am never so happy as when I suffer for Jesus, whom I love with every beat of my heart. Once, when I was suffering greatly, I left my work and escaped to Jesus and asked him to give me his strength. After a very short prayer, I returned to my work filled with enthusiasm and joy. Then one of the sisters, probably Sister Justine, said to me, "You must have many consolations today, sister. You look so radiant. Surely God is giving you no suffering, but only consolations." "You are greatly mistaken, sister," I answered, "for it is precisely when I suffer much that my joy is greater, and when I suffer less, my joy also is less." However, that soul was letting me recognize that she does not understand what I was saying. I tried to explain to her that when we suffer much, we have a great chance to show God that we love him. But when we suffer little, we have less occasion to show God our love. And when we do not suffer at all, our love is then neither great nor pure. By the grace of God, we can attain a point where suffering will become a delight for us, for love can work such things in pure souls. O my Jesus, my only hope, thank you for the book which you have opened before my soul's eyes. That book is your passion, which you underwent for love of me. It is from this book that I have learned how to love God and souls. In this book there are found for us inexhaustible treasures. O Jesus, how few souls understand you in your martyrdom of love. Oh, how great is the fire of purest love which burns in your most sacred heart. Happy the soul that has come to understand the love of the heart of Jesus. It is my greatest desire that souls should recognize you as their eternal happiness, that they should come to believe in your goodness and glorify your infinite mercy. I ask the Lord to grant me the grace that my nature be immune and resist the influences that sometimes try to draw me away from the spirit of our rule and from the minor regulations. These minor transgressions are like little moths that try to destroy the spiritual life within us, and they surely will destroy it if the soul is aware of these minor transgressions and yet disregard them as small things. I can see nothing that is small in the religious life. Little matter if I am sometimes the object of vexation and jeers, as long as my spirit remains in harmony with the spirit of the rules, the vows, and the religious statutes. O my Jesus, delight of my heart, you know my desires. I should like to hide from people's sight so as to be like one alive and yet not living. I want to live pure as a wild flower. I want my love always to be turned to you, just as a flower that is always turning to the sun. I want the fragrance and the freshness of the flower of my heart to be always preserved for you alone. I want to live beneath your divine gaze, for you alone are enough for me. When I am with you, Jesus, I fear nothing, for nothing can do me harm. Saint Therese of the Child Jesus wanted to be a missionary. Faustina wants to be a priest, a missionary, a preacher, and a martyr. And she realizes that she can do so by completely emptying herself and denying herself. As Jesus had said to her once, "Your name will be sacrifice." That explains her life. Saint Faustina explains the transformative power of love. Another sister had thought one day that she was filled with consolations and no sufferings because she seemed so radiant and joyful. In fact, Faustina was suffering greatly that day, but after praying for Jesus' own strength, she returned to work, and the joy came from uniting her sufferings with Christ's on the cross, also from knowing the good that would come from her suffering. So again, it's not a masochistic enjoying suffering for the sake of suffering, but because of the greater good, the love of Christ and the love of souls. Saint Faustina learned greatly how to offer herself by studying what she called a book, and that book was actually the Passion of Jesus, our Lord. And she learned everything she needed to learn and to know from that. Faustina asks to stay on the right path in her religious life. She recognizes that small things can get her off that path, and so she asks for grace to resist and to avoid these things. And then St. Faustina compares herself to a wild flower which turns toward the sun, and she wants only to turn to Jesus. She often worked in the garden, so it's interesting that she often uses the image of flowers, but always to remind herself of what is important, the gaze of love from Jesus.